Alright, moving on with servicing this Kodak Retina I type 010. We've cleaned up the major body components, so we can start reassembling things. Smaller components, I clean them as I go. So anyway, we'll start with this. So pop that to one side. Interested in the bellows struts. These have all been cleaned. We should be good to go. So a little bit of lubrication is needed here, and where it's needed is these slots at the back. The ones at the front will get done too, but they don't need to be done straight away. And I've just lubricated that with some synthetic grease. It's supposed to last forever and a day like most of these magic things, and it certainly appears to work quite well for me. Alright, here I'm just adding a little bit of lubricant. Now this is molybdenum paste, and I'm just smearing a little bit on that rod where these components run up and down, and honestly you just need a smear, you don't need much at all. I'll run some in here the same way, just on the end of a toothpick, just give that a little wipe. And here on this rod that thing slides, that piece slides on. So putting this thing together, let's gather together the parts. We have the return spring for the shutter release. Now I'll get this all round the right way. Levers flipped to the front that need to be flipped to the front. That's how it goes. That hooks over that rod, which you probably can't see. The struts are dropped down into place. There are 4 screws wanted. Yeah, what we can do here I think is put the end screws in first. They go inside the body here and here. And I had taken some nice chrome screws out of there, but I realised they hadn't come from there originally. They had come from somewhere else. In fact, they had come from the rewind knob. And so that's where they're going back. So I'm replacing these with the screws that probably came from here, or ones just like them, which have a black finish to blend in with the body. I'll just tighten those 2 up. Now there's a screw top and bottom. Now, excuse me, phone call. Interruptions day to day. Right, so what have we got to do? Oh yes, this thing. Now, in this case there's a washer, the spacer washer, one there, and they fit between the struts mechanism at the back and the inside of this position here. So they're a bit entertaining to get into place. I usually drop it down against the struts, then lift the struts with the tip of my tweezers. It drops down into place, and I can just see it's not quite lined up with the hole, so I'll push it along a bit. Oh, this is tricky. And I went past it. And I can line it up with the screw hole there with my tweezers. Alright, so one screw goes in there. I've got 2 screws here, one of them should be tidier than the other. That one will do nicely. I'll just run that in. That's better, that's picked up nicely. And I have to do the same at the top, exactly the same task. Drop that washer down and lift that frame away. The washer falls down into place, and I'll check that if I can see it. No, it's moved too far along. I just have to shift it back. A bit more. Oh, now I'm a mile away there. I'll move that about a bit more further along. There we go. So now I've got to line that up. Drop our screw in. Alright, do that screw up tight. Do that screw up tight. I'm pretty confident I did the ones in the body. I did. So our bellows struts are all back in place. That's all good. We just check that they pop in and up and down, and they do. I can work on getting the focus components, focus helical components together here. Now this piece goes on the inside, goes to the insides of those struts. You have to make sure that this little bracket here and here, which stop you being able to fold the front when it hasn't been returned to infinity, are floating free. There are 4 countersunk headed screws. They're short, quite broad heads on them. Just a message coming in on my phone over there. I'll have to find out what that is in the fullness of time. Yeah, if I fold those struts up, I'll be able to push that right back into the bellows. And there are 4 screws that hold the bellows to the back of that front standard. And I'll drop those into position. Find the right screwdriver. That'll do nicely. It's just picking up. It's better. Let's do those up snug. So now the bellows are attached to the back of the front standard. That should be right. Next I'll check my phone message and I'll be back to you. Right, I'm back. It was nothing too pressing, just my son warning my wife not to click on the link if she gets a fake email from a bank that we don't actually have. So no harm done there. Right, our focus helical. So I've got to lubricate this and pop it into place. So I'm just checking it, making sure it is actually, all the solvent I had in there before has evaporated out now. I was quite happy with it before, and that feels a bit dry, which is hardly surprising. I have some lubricant here. This is made for doing helicals. It's particularly pleasant to use. It's called, what is it called? Helimax XP. As you can see, I just put a little bit in a few places around the rim. And roll that in, work that in. That's nice, that feels nice and smooth. I'll put a bit at the front edge, same technique, just a little dot. I usually do it in about 5 positions around the thread. You don't want to smother this thread in grease. If you absolutely fill the thread up, there'll be a lot of drag, a lot of resistance, and it'll move smoothly, but it'll take a lot more force to shift it. Okay, that feels just nice, so that's good. I need to run some around the outside here. I don't particularly need to use this grease to do this particular task, but since it's here in my hand, that's a good thing to do. I'm just checking my alignment marks, make sure I've got that where I expect to see it. Where are they? That one there and that one there. So that's the top of the shutter. Put a touch of lubricant in here. They pick up the guides. For that centre to the helical, and that should just drop in. And it does. Here's the retainer. Just picked up a bit of fluff on the edge there. This doesn't require much lubricant. It's just that edge needs to be done, and I'll just put a little bit on like that. That can drop into place. We're done with that. I should have 6 small countersunk head screws, all the same. Just making sure I'm picking up the right screws here. Whoopsie, don't want that dropping down there. Come on back. I better fish that out, I'll never get the thing out. There we go. That's better. Alright, the correct size screwdriver. Let's start with that awkward one that was trying to get away. So I'm not doing these up tight immediately, I'm just running them down. Sometimes when you tighten up the screws on this plate, the focus helical suddenly gets very tight and stiff. And if that happens, typically it means that the focus mount is distorted in some fashion. And that can happen if the camera's been dropped. I'm just checking that now for action. That's nice and smooth. So I can nip those screws up. Do that back up, stop that camera bouncing. Okay, so far so good. Here is our focus setting ring. Right, that. Just drop that into place. Turn that round to align our marks. Top and bottom, one at the top, two at the bottom, making sure they're aligned. I'm also checking, you'll see that there are marks here, here and here where the screw heads have bitten in. They're very good to help you line things up because it's pretty obvious where they've been typically. And that's your rescue if you get too enthusiastic when you're taking the camera apart and you forget to mark the parts for their correct alignment. You can sometimes rescue the situation by seeing where those screws have bitten. Now these screws are never done up really tight, they just need to nip that up and no more. That's very nice. It's like a new camera. I just feel a bit of a click there as it rolls around into the close focus position, so I'm just checking to see what's going on. Sometimes it means that this ring is bent slightly and it's rubbing on the face. I'm just checking to see if it comes into very close contact at any particular point. It certainly looks like it's slightly buckled. This part looks low. That's the part where the cutout is. So if you bashed on that, it would certainly move inwards. I'm going to see if I can lift that slightly. And I'm going to do that by sliding my scalpel underneath it and giving it a wee tweak. There's still a catch at that point. That improved it. I'm looking to see if I can see what would cause that. I'm not seeing very much. Right, take that back off and have a closer look. I suspect there's a rough spot on the back of this focus setting ring. I did mention there were a few spots of distortion there, and I think something is just sitting high and it's catching on something else as it rolls around, so we'll find out. Get that screw back before I lose it. Alright, let's take that off. I'll revolve this. I want to check that, make sure that there's nothing stiff in the focus mechanism itself, and there doesn't appear to be. So it's not in the focus mechanism, it's something to do with this ring. Yeah, there is some quite pronounced roughness there, and I think I'll deal with that by tapping it with a hammer. Back shortly. Alright, bit of heavy engineering. Alright, that ring's not exactly flat, but it may be flat enough for our purposes. Let's get the screws back in it and see what happens. Where are we? A little bit out there, it's not where I want to be. That's my alignment marks. Let's check that everything is, that's not popped out into place. Oh, that's still a pronounced thumb there. It's screwy, look at that. It's when it gets to that point, it suddenly runs up against a roadblock. Oh, that's very interesting. That is like that screw is too long to do that job. I wonder whether they're originals, or I wonder whether there's a short one that should go in one position. Let's just try swapping them over. Do that one up tight, slacken that one right off. Well, it's this screw, and when that's screwed down tight, it's hitting something. And since that wasn't the original screw that was causing me grief, it's not that screw so much as that screw position. So I want one shorter screw there. Let's see if we can find out what's going on. I'll turn you off. I'll bring you back in when I discover. Mystery solved. What it is this. As this ring rotates around here, it has to pass over the position of that post, and it just catches on it. So there's some distortion in this piece here. Basically, it's been pressed, distorted down at that point. So I'll just have to do some work straightening this piece out, effectively lifting the outside up, pushing the inside down, so that this piece clears the top of that lever there. That lever, of course, being there so that you can only depress these buttons and close the front once the focus is set to infinity. But that is the secret of it. It's to do with the distortion of this ring. So I'll work on that in secret.